Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD Indian News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. White House freezes funds for Democratic-aligned states in shutdown slap, hits transit and green projects. Vice President J.D. Vance warns of federal worker cuts if shutdown continues. Morocco youth protests over better education, healthcare spread and it turned deadly. 2 killed as a group of young men storm security forces station. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh issues stern warning to Pakistan, says any build-up in Sir Creek will get a decisive response. Bharat remembers the father of the nation Mahatma Gandhi and late Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri on their birth anniversaries. 2nd October observed as International Day of Non-Violence globally. Festival of Dussehra, also known as Vijay Dashmi, being celebrated across India with religious fervour, marking triumph of good over evil. The US government shutdown entered its second day on Thursday with the White House warning of potential layoffs and taking steps to withhold federal funding. President Donald Trump threatens irreversible mass layoffs as Republicans and Democrats are blaming each other for the shutdown. Here's a report.
US President Donald Trump's administration on Wednesday froze $26 billion for Democratic-leaning states, following through on a threat to use the government shutdown to target Democratic priorities. The targeted programs included $18 billion for transit projects in New York, home to Congress's top 2 Democrats, and $8 billion for green energy projects in 16 Democratic-run states, including California and Illinois. Vice President J.D. Vance warned that the administration would be forced to resort to layoffs if the shutdown lasts more than a few days, adding to the 300,000 who will be pushed out by December. Previous shutdowns have not resulted in permanent layoffs.
Well, first of all, we haven't made any final decisions about what we're going to do with certain workers. What we're saying is that we might have to take extraordinary steps, especially the longer this goes on. We're going to have to take extraordinary measures to ensure the people's government operates, again, not perfectly, because it's not going to operate perfectly in the midst of a shutdown, but operate as well as it possibly can.
The government shutdown, the 15th since 1981, suspended scientific research, financial oversight, environmental cleanup efforts, and a wide range of other activities. Some 750,000 federal workers were ordered not to work, while others, such as troops and border patrol agents, began to work without pay. Meanwhile, the Senate again rejected efforts to keep the government functioning as both a Republican proposal that would fund the government through November 21 and a Democratic vote that would pair funding with additional health benefits failed in floor votes. Trump's Republicans hold a 53 to 47 Senate majority, but they need the support of at least 7 of Schumer's Democrats to meet the chamber's 6-day vote threshold for spending bills. Republicans and Democrats spent the first day of the federal government shutdown blaming each other for the dysfunction.
We're ready, we're willing, and able to find a bipartisan path forward.
And if the government shuts down, it is on the Senate Democrats.
Trump wants a shutdown. I mean, you know, even Stevie Wonder can see that.
Democrats do not want a shutdown.
Today marks day 1 of the Schumer shutdown.
Well, today we're in the middle of the Schumer shutdown.
But here we are in a Schumer shutdown.
The American people do not want to be held hostage.
Does this look dirty to you?
It's absolutely sparkling clean.
And all Chuck Schumer needs to do is get over the tantrum that he's having
and send it to the Senate. The ball is literally in Chuck Schumer's court.
The longest U.S. government shutdown, which stretched over 35 days in 2018 and 2019 during Trump's first term, ended in part after flight delays caused by air traffic controllers calling in sick. Bureau Report, DD India.
And my colleague Akshay Dongre is joining us live on this. Hi, Akshay. This shutdown is being called a Schumer shutdown. Akshay, what is the current situation in the United States as far as the shutdown is concerned?
Well, Siddharth, as you rightly showed in the reports, both the parties are now trying to blame each other because they know that the people are going to face the brunt of this entire disagreement between the Republicans and the Democrats. The fiscal year in the US starts from 1st of October. Before that, they have to decide how to allocate the budget, how to spend money, where to invest and where not to invest, from where to pull back money. You need an agreement between the two parties because the lawmakers have to finally, take that course of action as far as the investment is concerned, as far as the spendings are concerned, and how the money will come from. So while the money is there is no clarity on how to spend that money, and that seems to be the biggest hurdle right now. The Republicans, honestly, they are in the government, they have a majority in Senate, they have a majority in the Congress, and they have been tasked with the responsibility of running the government, and that seems to not be working their way as far as these kind of disagreements are concerned. So clearly, we are going to see more of these, more of this discontent between the two. And now, as the political parties are disagreeing amongst each other, the brunt will be faced by the people, and they are just trying to wash their hands of this particular responsibility as well. So the situation remains complicated. And especially for the Republicans who will be ultimately, blamed for this failure, they're trying to dodge it by saying that, the Democrats did not vote for this. So in this case, they have to come to an agreement. They have to decide how to spend money. And if there are some changes that are required by the opposition leaders as well to get their votes, you have to make it, you have to make those kind of changes. You can't be rigid. Otherwise, this kind of a blockade is going to continue for a very, very long time. So the situation remains complicated. And now all that's left, without an agreement is to blame each other. And that's what we are seeing in the US.
Definitely.
Right now.
The situation is tense here, Akshay, and you mentioned it right that both Republicans and Democrats, they have to come and sit across the table and talk it out because the fund is there, but there is no clarity how to spend it. And by the end of the day, it's the public which is bearing the brunt of everything. Definitely. Akshay, I want to ask you that what all is at stake at the moment?
Well, the kind of actions that have been taken by the government in this point in time, especially with stopping the funding for the Democrat-ruled states, is going to be a blot on this Republican government because this may become a template. You are punishing the Democrats for not agreeing to you. It's like a blackmail, and that perhaps seems to be the biggest hurdle here. This can be repeated when the Democrats are in power. If the Republicans are not agreeing, they are punishing the states that the Democrats rule, and that may not work out in the favor of the Republicans because the people are actually going to question that, if there are disagreements, the political leaders have to come, sit and discuss and dialogue and make changes or rather solve the points where both have disagreements. It's not that you will punish the people of the Democrat-ruled state. If you give an example from the Indian state, let's say, and the Indian government tries to pass a bill, in the parliament, and the opposition does not vote for that particular bill if they are in disagreement and they demand for certain changes. And let's say the central government starts punishing or stops the funds to the states that are ruled at the state level by the opposition parties. That will be seen as a revengeful action, and that perhaps is what we are seeing in the US right now. So as far as the way forward is concerned, clearly both will have to come and sit. And the longer this stretches, the longer there will be questions on the Donald J. Trump's government.
Definitely, but certainly, Akshay, that never happens in India, and that's why India is called the mother of democracy. But we leave it there. It's developing, Akshay. We'll keep taking updates from you. Thank you so much. We leave it there as of now. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting European leaders in Copenhagen on Thursday, where he will address the European political community. Earlier, European Union leaders discussed proposals to use frozen Russian assets to fund a new $164 billion loan for Kiev. His renewed appeal comes as Europe, which is on high alert after a series of provocative incursions from Russia, comes under more pressure to back Ukraine as the United States turns its focus on security concerns in Asia and elsewhere. Denmark Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen on Thursday said that Europe is in hybrid war waged by Russia and Ukraine is first line of defense. While Belgium's Prime Minister said that he has asked other European Union leaders to give guarantees they would share the risks if frozen Russian assets were used to finance loans to Ukraine. He has previously said seizing the assets to benefit Ukraine would raise legal issues. Israel has announced that its forces are tightening the siege around Gaza City by extending a military corridor across the territory towards the coast. The move is a part of ongoing efforts to restore long-term stability to the area. Meanwhile, Hamas continues to deliberate over a peace proposal presented by US President Donald Trump. The proposal was unveiled earlier this week in coordination with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The plan has received support from Israel as a constructive step towards peace. Trump has given Hamas a limited time frame to respond, signaling urgency in advancing a resolution. The Israeli military has issued new evacuation orders for residents of Gaza City, urging them to move south. Defense Minister Israel Katz stated that the move aims to tighten the encirclement around Gaza and isolate Hamas operatives in the north. He added that this is the final chance for Gaza residents to evacuate south before further military action escalates. Up on your screen now is the infographic with the map of the Gaza Strip showing different phases of the progressive withdrawal of Israeli troops. The map was presented by the White House on September 29. Currently, 20% of the Gaza Strip is unoccupied by the Israeli army. Withdrawal will take place with first from 45% of the area, 63% in the second phase and 82% in the third phase, while the 18% buffer zone will remain under Israeli control until Gaza is properly secured from any resurgent terror threat. The United States has vowed to defend Qatar against any armed attack following Israeli strikes last month. President Donald Trump signed an executive order declaring that any attack on Qatar's territory, sovereignty, or critical infrastructure will be considered a threat to U.S. peace and security as well. The order, welcomed by Qatar as a milestone in bilateral defense ties, comes after Israel attempted to kill Hamas leaders in Doha, alarming Washington due to Qatar's role as host of the largest U.S. base in the region. Trump's directive authorizes diplomatic, economic, and if necessary, military action. It also requires U.S. defense officials to maintain contingency plans with Qatar, signaling an unprecedented deepening of America's security commitment in the Gulf. 3 suspected men arrested for allegedly planning a serious act of violence against Jewish targets in Germany for Hamas were produced before a federal judge on Thursday. Prosecutors suspect the 3 men of being foreign operatives for Hamas and of being involved in procuring firearms and ammunition to be used for assassinations targeting Israeli or Jewish institutions in Germany. The arrest comes a week before the second anniversary of Hamas's attack on Israel. German Interior Minister said a terrorist threat was successfully averted with the arrest. Hamas has denied links to the 3 men, calling the allegations unfounded and saying its struggle is confined to opposing Israeli occupation in Palestine. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Ukraine accuses Russia of trying to create the risk of nuclear incidents. Rescuers race against time to rescue kids in Indonesia. Christ the Redeemer glows pink for breast cancer awareness.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. In Morocco, Protests continue demanding reforms in the public health and education sectors that initially carried out for social justice reforms. The protests, which began Saturday, have been organized online by a loosely formed anonymous youth group calling itself Gen Z 212. The group has used platforms such as TikTok, Instagram and the gaming app Discord to mobilize support. Security forces had to use firearms in self-defense after tear gas failed to stop the group from storming into the security forces facility. The Gen Z 212 movement is inspired by similar youth-led protests in Asia and Latin America. The Interior Ministry said 263 members of security forces and 23 civilians were injured during Tuesday's clashes. Ukraine has accused Russia of trying to create the risk of nuclear incidents, alleging Moscow has deliberately staged an attack that cut off power to the decommissioned Chernobyl nuclear power station. The site of Ukraine's defunct Chernobyl nuclear plant, partially destroyed in a 1986 meltdown, lost power on Wednesday after Russia shelled a nearby substation. President Zelensky targeted Russia for the same and said Moscow was doing nothing to fix the cutoff of external power to the Russian-held Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, now in its 8th day. However, Ukraine's Energy Ministry statement made no mention of any possible increased risk of radioactive release as a result of the power cutoff to Chernobyl. On its part, Kremlin termed Kyiv's allegations as foolish, given that Moscow controls the facility. The vast Soviet-built plant is being cooled by emergency diesel generators for a 9th day after an external power line was severed. In fact, it was severed. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Russia was doing everything to ensure the plant's safety, which he said had come under repeated fire from Ukrainian forces. Kyiv in turn accuses Russian forces of shelling. Russia has controlled the plant, Europe's largest since the early days of its military campaign in Ukraine. It remains close to the front lines between Russian and Ukrainian forces. Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia has stated that Moscow does not recognize the renewed United Nations sanctions imposed on Iran. The announcement follows the UN's reinstatement of an arms embargo and other punitive measures against Tehran, which were triggered by European powers over concerns about Iran's nuclear activities. Nebenzia made his position clear at a press conference marking the beginning of Russia's presidency of the UN Security Council for October, saying, "We do not recognize the snapback as coming into force." Britain, France and Germany initiated the snapback process at the UN Security Council over accusations Iran had violated a 2015 deal that aimed to stop it from developing a nuclear bomb. Iran denies seeking nuclear weapons. With the return of UN sanctions, Iran will again be subjected to an arms embargo and a ban on all uranium enrichment and reprocessing activities. Other sanctions to be reimposed include a travel ban on dozens of Iranian citizens, asset freezes on dozens of people and entities, and a ban on the supply of anything that could be used in the nation's nuclear program. Japan's Liberal Democratic Party will elect a new head on Saturday who will most likely become the next prime minister after Shigeru Ishiba decided to step down. LDP will select its next party leader from a list of 5 hopefuls, including arch-nationalist Sanae Takaichi and the youthful Shinjiro Koizumi, are talking to on foreigners. Takaichi says Japan should reconsider policies that allow in people with completely different cultures and backgrounds, while Koizumi says illegal employment of foreigners and the worsening of public safety are leading to anxiety among local residents. The new LDP head is likely to become the next prime minister. Ishiba stepped down after little more than 1 year in power amid growing political discord within his party. Life in East Asian country has become harder, with inflation squeezing incomes and voters deserting the LDP, depriving it of a majority in both houses of parliament. US Secretary of the Army Daniel Driscoll has said that North Korea and China are both basic threats in regional security, as President Donald Trump's administration might seek to adjust the role of American troops stationed in South Korea to better counter the threat from China. Driscoll made the remarks as the decades-long alliance between South Korea and the United States is facing a challenging security environment, in fact, changing security environment as well, amid speculation over a possible adjustment in the role and scope of the U.S. forces Korea in face of increasingly assertive China. Driscoll made the remarks at a meeting with reporters at U.S. Army Garrison Humphreys at the USFK's main base in Pyeongtaek, around 60 kilometers south of Seoul, on Wednesday.
Think about where we're standing right now, what it will require to effectively protect this area against the drone threat is a deep partnership with our ROC allies and the manufacturers and the technology companies in the area. We desperately need to be able to work with them to roll out solutions that allows for us to share information in near real time and then be able to act against those threats together.
Two planes operated by Delta subsidiary collided Wednesday on the runway at New York's LaGuardia airport. The incident involved two Endeavour air jets. One of the jets was landing and the other about to take off. According to a statement from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, one person was taken to hospital after suffering non-life-threatening injuries. Delta reported one minor injury to a flight attendant. Though the operations at one of the United States' busiest airport, LaGuardia, were not interrupted. Delta, the parent company of Endeavour Air, said it would work with all relevant authorities to review safety measures following what it described as a low-speed collision during taxi. The two jets had a total of 93 passengers and crew members on board. Australia's mushroom murderer Erin Patterson will appeal her guilty verdict for killing 3 people with toxic mushrooms, a lawyer told her court on Thursday. Patterson's lawyers Richard Edney told an administrative hearing at Victoria's Supreme Court his client intended to appeal against conviction. Her legal team will have 28 days to lodge the relevant documents before a court considers whether to approve the appeal. Earlier, Patterson was sentenced to life in jail after a jury found her guilty of killing 3 relatives and attempting to kill another by serving them a toxic beef Wellington laced with poisonous mushrooms. She maintained her innocence during the 11-week-long trial, claiming that the disastrous meal had been an accident. In Indonesia, rescuers were racing against time to rescue some 60 teenagers trapped under the remains of an Islamic boarding school that collapsed earlier this week due to foundation failure. Part of the multi-story boarding school on the main island of Java suddenly gave way on Monday as students gathered for afternoon prayers. Authorities say 59 people remain trapped based on the school's list of absences and missing person reports filed by families. The total death toll from the collapse had reached 6, although the country's disaster mitigation agency said on Thursday it was still at 5. And the death toll from magnitude 6.5 earthquake that struck off the central Philippines on Tuesday has risen to 72. Another 294 people were injured. The earthquake struck the region of Sumenep. Aftershock continued throughout Wednesday as authorities set up mobile kitchens for hundreds of evacuees and raced to provide temporary power as night approached. The shallow quake struck waters off the central island of Cebu late at night, damaging power lines, bridges and multiple buildings, including a church that was more than 100 years old. The Philippines lies in the Pacific Ring of Fire, where volcanic activity and earthquakes are common. Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is reeling under a series of protests. Workers and supporters from all cities and towns began a long march towards Muzaffarabad that was organized by Jammu and Kashmir Awami Action Committee workers. A complete shutdown was observed in Katoli, Dirkot, Muzaffarabad and Dadial. Police opened fire on the protesters when they reached Dirkot. 4 civilians were killed as per reports, while 16 individuals and a local police personnel was injured. The protest was later shifted to Muzaffarabad, where again reports of aerial firing and tear gas shelling came in. The chief secretary of the POK issued a notice inviting JKAAC leaders for negotiations. However, the POK government also warned that JKAAC leadership of strict action if the protests were not called off. Venezuela began its Christmas celebrations unusually early for the 2nd year in a row with a firework display launched from El Helicoide. the country's largest prison known for housing political opponents of President Nicolas Maduro. The early holiday kickoff was first announced in early September amid rising tensions between Venezuela and the United States. President Maduro claimed the move was intended to bring joy and hope to the Venezuelan people during challenging times. The US has recently intensified pressure on Maduro's regime, doubling the reward for information leading to his arrest to $50 million, deploying warships off Venezuela's coast and sinking a vessel if claimed was linked to a drug trafficking gang controlled by Maduro, resulting in 11 deaths. In 2024, Maduro similarly launched early Christmas festivities during a period of political turmoil following a disputed election widely condemned as fraudulent by opposition leaders and the US government. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. In Rio de Janeiro, the Christ the Redeemer statue lit up in pink to launch the 2025 Pink October campaign. The campaign promotes breast cancer awareness and early detection with over 3,000 free mammograms for women through Brazil's public health system. Tasmania's Rod Barwick has turned his passion for daffodils into a celebrated garden that attracts attention worldwide. His daffodils have won awards both in Australia and abroad. He also started the Claremont Spring Flower Show, now running for 40 years. Panama marks Coffee Day on 1st of October, with each person consuming about 2 kilograms a year. From local cafes to gourmet shops, coffee is part of daily life, and Panama's geisha, a variety of coffee, is world famous. Vietnam's Hue village, known for rice paper and steamed rice rolls, continues its 4-generation-old craft. Despite fewer artisans, as elders age and youth move away, seniors teach the next generations. Authorities are promoting the craft through tourism and branding, preserving both livelihoods and Hue's cultural heritage. And still to come on DD News. India's Defence Minister celebrates Dussehra with soldiers in Gujarat's Bhuj. Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav delivers a message on cleanliness. Hundreds of children introduced to the world of letters and learning through Vidyarambham ceremonies held across Kerala.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
There is something in Jharkhand for everyone. Welcome to a feast of experiences for your body and soul.
I've carried a memory of this place in me from my childhood.
From old world charms to new age excitement. From spectacular natural wonders to warm, friendly people.
Thank you.
Tune into nature with dense forests and wildlife.
कान मिला रहे ना, ये नॉर्मल है. जैसे ये कान खड़े कर लेंगे, एग्रेसिव हो जाएंगे, पूंछ सीधा कर लेंगे तो.
Make magnificent memories as you leave a piece of your heart in Jharkhand. Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of headlines. White House freezes funds for Democratic aligned states in shutdown slap. Hits transit and green projects. Vice President J.D. Vance warns of federal worker cuts if shutdown continues. Morocco youth protests over better education, healthcare spread and turned deadly. 2 killed as group of young men stormed security forces station. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh issues stern warning to Pakistan. Says any build-up in Sir Creek will get a decisive response. Bharat remembers the father of the nation Mahatma Gandhi and former Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri on their birth anniversaries. 2nd October observed as International Day of Non-Violence globally. Festival of Dussehra, also known as Vijay Dashmi, being celebrated across India with religious fervour, marking triumph of good over evil. Second October is a historic day for India. This day marks the birth anniversaries of not one but 2 great personalities India proudly honours. First, the beacon of non-violence, the father of the nation Mahatma Gandhi. Alongside him, the late Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, remembered for his humility and inspiring slogan, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. A series of functions have been organised across the country and by Indian missions abroad to commemorate this special day. Listen to this report.
Mahatma Gandhi, fondly known as Bapu, was born on 2nd of October 1869 in the western state of Gujarat. He developed a method of action based upon the principles of courage, non-violence and truth called Satyagraha. Gandhiji led various freedom movements in India, including the non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement and Quit India movement. Under him, many people actively participated in protest against the colonial rule in India. In 2007, the United Nations General Assembly designated October 2nd as International Day of Non-Violence to honor Gandhi's principles. India also remembers its former Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri on his birth anniversary. Born in 1904, Shastri played a significant role in the Salt Satyagraha and was imprisoned multiple times during the struggle for independence. Lal Bahadur Shastri is known for his role in leading India to victory in the Indo-Pakistan War of 1965. He is best known for his slogan Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, which he coined to boost the morale of soldiers and promote agricultural self-sufficiency. India's President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other dignitaries paid floral tributes to Mahatma Gandhi and Lal Bahadur Shastri in New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised Gandhi's ideals of truth, simplicity and service and Shastri's integrity and patriotic call of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Modi urged people to honour them by embracing Swadeshi, saying it is the foundation of a self-reliant and developed India. Bureau Report, DD India.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Thursday warned that any misadventure by Pakistan in the Sir Creek area would be met with a decisive response that both history and geography will change. Defence Minister attended a multi-agency capability exercise and performed the Shastra Pujan ceremony at the Lucky Nala military garrison in Kutch, held on the occasion of Vijay Dashmi. He said the Indian Army and BSF are vigilantly guarding the borders. While addressing the soldiers at a military camp, Defence Minister said that during Operation Sindoor, Indian armed forces successfully thwarted Pakistan's attempts to challenge India's sovereignty, demonstrating their capability to locate and neutralize threats. Rajnath Singh said that India has repeatedly tried to resolve the border dispute through dialogue, but Pakistan's unclear intentions and recent military build-up near the Sir Creek area are concerning.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के दौरान पाकिस्तान ने लेह से लेकर सर क्रीक के इस इलाके तक भारत के डिफेंस सिस्टम को भेजने की नाकाम कोशिश की। जिस तरह से हाल में पाकिस्तान की फौज ने सर क्रीक के सटे इलाकों में अपना मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बढ़ाया है, वह उसकी नीयत बताता है। साथियों, भारत की सीमाओं की रक्षा भारतीय सेनाएं और बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी फोर्स मिलकर मुस्तैदी से कर रही हैं। अगर सरक्रीक इलाके में पाकिस्तान की ओर से कोई भी हिमाकत की गई तो उसे ऐसा करारा जवाब मिलेगा कि इतिहास और भूगोल दोनों बदल जाएंगे मेरे साथियों।
On the occasion, Rajnath Singh also virtually inaugurated the tidal independent berthing facility and joint control center in the strategic Sir Creek sector. These facilities will act as major enablers for integrated coastal operations while significantly enhancing joint operational capability, coastal security coordination and rapid response to any threats. India's Minister of Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnav, attended a press briefing on electronic component manufacturing scheme's progress. While interacting with media, the minister said the scheme was launched in April this year to strengthen India's domestic electronics manufacturing ecosystem and reduce import reliance. The scheme has received record number of applications till date and will generate large number of employment opportunities as well in the nation. This is a testament of growing global confidence in India's electronic manufacturing and policy stability and competitive advantage.
ये स्कीम जिसमें 1,15,351 करोड़ रुपए का इन्वेस्टमेंट की एप्लीकेशंस आई है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में, ये दर्शाता है, ये क्लियरली शो करता है कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पर फोकस है और जो पिछले 11 वर्षों में जो ट्रस्ट डेवलप हुआ है दुनिया भर का भारत पर, ये ट्रस्ट आज इन्वेस्टमेंट में, प्रोडक्शन में और एम्प्लॉयमेंट में परिणत हो रहा है. इट्स रिजल्टिंग इनटू इन्वेस्टमेंट, एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड एक्स्ट्रा प्रोडक्शन. Employment, we had targeted 91,600 persons. Here the employment which is expected is 1.5 times at 1,41,000 persons employment.
October 2nd marks the culmination of the nationwide Swachhta Hi Seva or Cleanliness is Service fortnight campaign, which started on September 17. On this occasion, Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav delivered a message on cleanliness, highlighting the government's efforts to encourage clean and green living. He also urged citizens to take personal responsibility for maintaining cleanliness in their surroundings. The minister also wished the countrymen a happy Vijayadashmi.
I would like to wish all the listeners and viewers very happy Dussehra, very happy Vijayadashmi. Today is 2nd October. We are also celebrating, we are also starting the Swachhta Mahotsav, Swachhta Abhiyan. Basically, it's a pledge to keep our surroundings clean, whether we are working in an office, at home, or on our street, near our homes, everywhere, wherever we go, we should make our own efforts to keep the city clean, keep the town clean, keep the village clean, keep the office clean, keep the house clean.
On 2nd of October 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Swachh Bharat mission across the entire country. Initiated as a national movement on the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, the mission aims to promote cleanliness, eliminate open defecation and improve solid waste management across urban and rural India. DD India's Princey Yadav reports.
On 2nd October 2014, brooms swept across dusty lanes, plastic bottles were hauled from the drains, and the wave of determination spread across every corner of India. The Swachh Bharat mission, launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, was far more than a cleanliness campaign. It was a nationwide awakening call with the promise of a cleaner future. Swachhta Hi Seva 2025 themed Swachhotsav is the latest chapter in this journey, which is uniting citizens, leaders and sanitation workers for cleaner and greener India. The campaign is also driving behavioral change at the grassroots level.
It's not just about cleaning one's air, it's about change in habits. I have seen Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is shaping students into tomorrow's responsible citizens. They are collecting their own trash and using dustbins and spreading awareness among themselves and in their communities also.
Numerous stories of change are unfolding across India. 12 crore toilets have been built, reducing open defecation. Significant improvement in public health, especially for women and children. Nearly 3 lakh under 5 child deaths prevented due to better sanitation. Over 8 lakh cleanliness target units were transformed in 2024, turning garbage dumps into usable spaces. Jammu and Kashmir Amarnath Yatra 2025 became a zero landfill pilgrimage. Kumbhi Kagaz startups in Assam are transforming the invasive water hyacinth into chemical-free handmade paper. Uttar Pradesh's Kuberpur dump site is now an integrated waste management city with forests and processing units. These efforts are steering India towards a sustainable, inclusive and developed Bharat by 2047.
What began as a call for cleaner streets is now shaping the discourse on public health, women's dignity and the responsibility towards environment. Swachh Bharat mission is reminding us that cleanliness is not someone else's job. It starts with you and me. With cameraman Manmohan, Prince Yadav for DD India.
Dussehra, also known as Vijay Dashmi, is being observed across the country today. Dussehra, one of the most sacred Hindu festivals, celebrates the eternal triumph of good over evil, wisdom over ignorance and righteousness over immorality. Deeply rooted in mythology and spirituality, the festival honors both Lord Ram's victory over Ravan and Goddess Durga's triumph over Mahishasur. Beyond its cultural and religious relevance, Dussehra also carries profound astrological significance, as it is considered one of the most auspicious times of the year to begin new endeavors, strengthen spiritual practices and invite divine blessings for prosperity. President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan and Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended greetings to the countrymen on the occasion of Vijay Dashmi today. In most of India, Dussehra or Vijay Dashmi is a one-day celebration marking the triumph of good over evil. But in Kullu Valley, in North India's Himachal Pradesh, the story doesn't end there. Kullu Dussehra begins on Vijay Dashmi and continues for a full week as a week-long festival celebrating Lord Raghunath. On Vijay Dashmi, the idol of Lord Raghunath is placed in a chariot and taken through the town. That is the start of celebrations. Deities from nearby villages come on palanquins into Kullu Valley. They stayed at Dhalpur grounds for the entire week. Lord Raghunath holds court for the entire week and the deities visit him one by one. On the 7th day, the deities accompany Lord Raghunath back to the palace. Folk performances, especially the Nati dance, local music and fairs are held daily. Due to its unique traditions, Kullu Dussehra granted international fair status. The festival does not use burning of Ravan effigies like elsewhere. Instead, it concludes with Lanka Dahan, a symbolic ritual. The grand festival of Dussehra also marks the culmination of the 9-day-long Navratri celebrations observed with devotion, fasting and rituals in honor of Goddess Durga. As the vibrant festival of Durga Puja draws to a close, a striking tradition known as Sindoor Khela transforms pandals across West Bengal into a haze of scarlet and joy. On the final day, the air thickens with the smoke of incense and the resonant sound of conch shells as women gather brass plates laden with vermilion powder and sweets to build farewell to Goddess Durga. From fairs and cultural performances to processions in towns and cities, the festival culminates the Navratri journey. Let's take a look at other stories making news. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami today flagged off a public awareness rally on the theme Human-Wildlife Coexistence in Dehradun as part of Wildlife Week 2025. These rallies promote solutions for human-animal conflict, celebrate wildlife conservation and stress the importance of respecting animal habitats. Hundreds of children were introduced to the world of letters and learning through Vidyarambham ceremonies held across Kerala on the occasion of Vijayadashmi on Thursday, marking the culmination of Navratri festival. According to tradition, young children, typically between the ages of 2 and 3, are guided in writing their first letters of learning on this special occasion. They assist the little ones in writing Hari Shri on rice filled platters or trace it on the child's tongue with a golden ring. On the occasion of Dussehra, devotees started visiting the Ram Janambhoomi temple in Ayodhya, Uttar Pradesh to offer prayers. The sacred site witnessed long queues of worshippers seeking blessings. Festive fervour gripped the city as celebrations continued through the day. And still to come on DD News Hour. Eurozone inflation rises to 2.2% in September. 8-time world champions and sprint legend Usain Bolt's India visit.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Prices for services and food are climbing across the Eurozone. In September, inflation rose above 2% for the first time since April. Joining us now from Berlin is DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu. Hi, Chiponda. Walk us through the latest inflation figures.
Thanks for having me. Well, inflation rose to 2.2% in September in the euro area, and that is slightly above the European Central Bank's target inflation of 2%. Now, food prices especially are contributing to that increase, and now they are rising faster than prices for energy, services, and consumer goods. In fact, in a blog published last Thursday, 3 ECB economic advisors wrote that European consumers are spending around a third more on food than they were before the pandemic in 2019. So while inflation is down from peak levels about 3 years ago, for many European households, it doesn't feel like that. And that is because food prices remain elevated. Now, according to the central bank economists, 1 in 3 people in the Eurozone is worried about whether they can afford the food they would like to buy.
And how significant are food prices for the European Central Bank, Chiponda?
Well, for one, food is a necessity, and this upward trend in prices looks like it is set to remain. Now, there are a couple of developments driving food inflation. Those include rising labor costs, for instance, and global commodity prices are also increasing because of climate change. It has meant that harvests for some crops have become increasingly unreliable. And that has been the case, of course, for coffee, for instance. We have seen coffee prices increase by more than 50% since 2019. So buying a cup of coffee feels like a luxury for some people in Europe. And there's also more. Incomes are rising in emerging markets, and that is increasing demand for agricultural products. Essentially, for some goods, harvests are down, but the demand is up. And here in the Eurozone, the picture around food inflation is quite complicated. The trends I just mentioned have different levels of impact on the 20 countries that use the euro. So food inflation ranges from 20% in Cyprus to 57% in Estonia.
And Chiponda, what can we expect for interest rates?
It will be tricky for the ECB because food prices play a bigger role in influencing public opinions about inflation. Now, the expectation is that the central bank will hold rates at the end of this month because inflation is hovering just above the ECB target of 2%. And that would, of course, keep the benchmark deposit facility rate at 2%. And of course, the ECB still has other challenges, which include geopolitics and uncertainty around global trade. But because food price inflation hurts poor households, it may factor more into interest rate decisions. Because of the slowdown that we are seeing in foreign demand, domestic consumption could play a bigger role for the Eurozone economy, which of course right now is only projected to grow by around 1% this year.
Asian stock indices rallied higher, led by technology stocks after OpenAI struck a deal with South Korean chipmakers that bolstered optimism over artificial intelligence. South Korea's Kospi index surged more than 2%, driven by strong gains in Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. The Kosdaq edged up 0.47%. Japan's Nikkei 225 benchmark gained 1.04%, while the topics remained unchanged. Australia's S&P ASX 200 opened 0.61% higher. Hong Kong's Hang Seng SSI added 1.6%, and Taiwan's tech-heavy bourse TWII jumped 1.8%, and markets in China and India were shut for holidays. Pan-European Stocks 50 futures stocks AC1 pointed 0.5% higher. Wall Street's main stock indexes in fact closed higher on Wednesday, with the biggest boost from the healthcare sector as investors looked past weaker than expected private payrolls data in uncertainty around the first day of the US federal government shutdown. You're watching DD India News. Our time now for sport. And 8-time Olympic gold medalist Usain Bolt is on a multi-city promotional tour to India. The tour includes interactions with fans, cultural events, and a nationwide sprint challenge for school students. Bolt's visit is a cultural event celebrating sport, speed, and shared enthusiasm between the athlete and his fans in India. This was Bolt's second visit to India, with his maiden trip to the subcontinent coming way back in 2014. Speaking to media, Bolt shared his experience of visiting India, about his record, and revealed who his favorite sporting personality is. Take a listen.
Oh, it's been good. Wonderful people. I've been really enjoying it. The food has been great. I've had no problems, so yeah, good so far. I think the 200 at the time, at the start, I was like, it's going to be hard to break. I never thought I could have done it, but I broke it, and for me, it felt great. For me, cricket is the biggest thing. Virat Kohli is one of the biggest, and Cristiano Ronaldo is outstanding, and I'm a fan.
On to soccer, title holders Paris Saint-Germain came from behind to beat Barcelona 2-1 with a last-minute goal in the Champions League on Wednesday. The meeting of the Spanish champions and the reigning French and European champions was one of the most eagerly anticipated of the opening stages of this season's competition. It lived up to its billing, despite Ballon d'Or winner Dembele missing out injured for an understrength PSG, with Yamal showing flashes of his brilliance for the hosts. This win makes it 2 from 2 for PSG in this season's Champions League. Defending champions Australia thrashed Trans-Tasman rivals New Zealand by 89 runs in their ICC Women's World Cup opening match on Wednesday. Seasoned all-rounder Ashley Gardner's commanding century and disciplined effort from the bowlers helped the Aussies begin their quest for 8th title in spectacular fashion. Gardner struck her second ODI century to revive Australia from a mini collapse and take them to a big total of 326 all-out in 49.3 overs after opting to bat first. Pacer Annabelle Sutherland and spin duo of Alana King and Sophie were among the wickets as Australia restricted New Zealand to 237 in 43.2 overs to notch a comprehensive win. India bundled out West Indies for a paltry 162 runs in the first innings of the first Test match in Ahmedabad on Thursday. Opting to bat first after winning the toss, West Indies dealt early blows in the morning session by Mohammad Siraj and company. The visitors lost 4 wickets inside 12 overs and were skittled out cheaply for 162. Siraj picked up 4 wickets while Bumrah claimed 3. Kuldeep Yadav took 2 wickets while Washington Sundar also picked up 1. This is a new era for Team India under captain Shubman Gill as India named an 11 with 3 spinners. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.